Yes.
Okay, great. I think api video Vishesha Kone, we'll just start with the lesson because we know time is quite limited for us. So today we are going to finish the blood circulatory system and potentially stop the nervous system. And next week yana apita කොහොමද මේ lesson එක ඉවර කරන්න. And then for rest of the lessons there are printed notes ළමයි. ඕගලන්ට මම එවන්නම් tomorrow means Sunday. I will send you ලියාගන්න නැත්නම් I will forget 28th June Sunday. I have to send you the heat note to grade 11 class. All right, so I will send you the heat note. ඒකත් printed note එකක්. It will probably take 1.5 days වගේ. ඒතකොට අපිට මට හිතෙන්නේ next week එක පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි. And then power and energy, all of those are printed notes. So one more thing that I have to tell you, Lamai, regardless of where we are by the end of July, August first week, we are starting the past paper revision. And parallel to the past paper revision only, the rest of the lessons we will do, right? So trust me, trust the process. We are going to cover all the syllabus. We are also going to do all the past papers. So you don't have to worry about that. Just make sure that you are staying up to date with what we are doing now. And also you're revising what we did in grade 10 and also previous lessons in grade 11. So අන්න ඒක මට කරලා දෙන්න අනිවාර්යෙන් දැන් revise කරන්න පටන් ගන්න. Because you will not know, but even without you like knowing, it'll already be too late and we don't want that to happen. Okay. All right. So heart is not that difficult. It can be a little tricky. ඒකින් හොඳට අහගන්න. My laptop is getting stuck. Give me 1 second. Okay, Lamai. I think now it's okay. By any chance, if I'm breaking internet hinda wenna bes mage laptop එක චුට්ටක් it's lagging a little bit. But okay, anyhow. So Lamai, this is our heart, right? So when you take the human heart, then මේක ඇවිල්ලා මම ඉස්සරහෙන් බලන් ඉන්නවා වගේ. So හරියට heart එක බලන්න ඕන නම් ඔයා මේ පොත තමන්ගේ පැත්තට හරවලා බලන්න ඕනේ තමන්ගේ heart එකත් එක්ක තියලා. Because now මෙතන you know now ඔයා මෙහෙම ඉස්සරහෙන් බලුවම this is the left side. But මේක ඔයාගේ heart එක කියලා හිතලා බලුවොත් this is the right side and this is the left side. This is the right and this is the left. Okay, of the human heart. So there are different like chambers, like cavities wage chambers, tava butter wage, there are so many tubes. Okay. So if you at a glance look at this diagram, it can be a little confusing because it's all just like, all everywhere. So I'm going to draw some sort of a simplified diagram. We'll draw it together, and while drawing, I'll explain everything that's happening in the heart, right? ඊළඟට අපි අර diagram එකට යමු. So human heart එක ගත්තහම we have 4 chambers. Roughly, I'm not very good at drawing, so please excuse me if this doesn't look very good. So something like this, right? There are 4 chambers. May cavities, may compartments that are chambers. So there are 4 chambers. And as I said, this is the right side, and this is the left side. Okay. Then the top chambers, we call them atrium. The plural of atrium is atria, right? So the top chambers, we call them atria or singular atrium. The bottom chambers, we call them ventricles, right? Atria and ventricles. So left side dekheti na atrium meka, we call it right atrium. So this is called right atrium. Left side dekheti na atrium meka, we call it left atrium. Then I told you bottom chambers are ventricles, no? So this ventricle, we call it right ventricle. And this, we call it left ventricle. So these are the main 4 chambers in the human heart, right? Now, when we talk about how blood is moving in between the heart, there are some, what do you call, channels. We call them valves, right? So here, let me draw it properly. For blood to move from right atrium, which is this top cavity, to right ventricle, we have a little door here. We have a little door here. We call this a valve. Then for blood to move from left atrium to left ventricle, we have another small door. All right. So Lamai, what are these doors called? This one from the right side, what do we call it? See, because I'm just showing you this because my drawing is not very nice. But this looks a little nice, and that's why I'm showing you this, right? So this is called tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. The little doorway here on the left side, we call it bicuspid valve. Or some other people call it mitral valve. Mitral valve. Okay. Okay, are the chambers and the valves, is it clear to you? Thumbs up to this point? Okay. Now, Lamai, when we talk about the tubes or the blood vessels associated with the heart, there are some blood vessels bringing blood to the heart. There are some other blood vessels taking blood away from the heart. Okay. So, we call blood vessels taking blood away from the heart, we call them arteries. Okay. And then the blood vessels bringing blood to the heart, we call them ventricles. Okay. Blood vessels taking blood away from the heart, we call them arteries. Blood vessels bringing blood to the heart, we call them ventricles. Okay. So, if you take this structure, now Lamai, do you remember when we, lungs thamai oxygen add when a blood well, right? It was a blood body cells oxygen release karna right? Blood releases oxygen in the body cells for cellular respiration. Once blood releases oxygen in body cells, blood will not have oxygen or not have enough oxygen. 1 second. blood goes to the body cells and releases oxygen for cellular respiration. The body cells will take oxygen for cellular respiration. Now, since blood released oxygen, blood will not have enough oxygen. So, blood with less oxygen or low oxygen, we call it deoxygenated blood. Now, may blood denava from the top part of the body. The method heart top part means the head, then the hands and all that, right? From the top part of the body, deoxygenated blood. That means blood with less oxygen comes to the heart through a tube like this. We call this superior vena cava. We call this tube superior vena cava. Superior vena cava. Then deoxygenated blood or blood with less oxygen from the bottom parts of the body, like stomach, liver, kidneys and all that, the legs, deoxygenated blood. We have palleha tube එකකින් එනවා. palleha tube එකෙන් යන මේ පිටිපස්සෙන් artery right atrium එකට connect වෙනවා. We can't see it because it's at the back of the heart. That's why mummy dotted dwelling are there. That doesn't look very good. Okay, so that we call inferior vena cava. So we have superior vena cava and we have inferior vena cava. This is inferior vena cava. Up to that point, is it clear, Lamai? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Now deoxygenated blood gets accumulated in the right atrium. Deoxygenated or blood with less oxygen. Jasandi, are you a newcomer today? So just to let you know, we are doing the human heart and a few things like when it comes to communication, you can unmute and speak. But if I'm teaching, you have to raise the hand and then you can unmute and speak. You can also use the chat box. And when I ask like simple yes or no questions, you can use the thumbs up option too. Just letting you know. Okay. So anyways, deoxygenated blood from the upper parts and lower parts of the body come to the right atrium through superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Right. Then all of this deoxygenated blood gets collected in the right atrium. Okay. Then what happens? This deoxygenated blood from the right atrium will move to the right ventricles through the tricuspid valve. Egolan right atrium ekina right ventricles වලට හැලෙනවා. Deoxygenated blood, right? Then right ventricles වල එකතු වෙනවා. Like this. Still deoxygenated blood. Then what happens is that there is another tube. මෙන්න මෙතන ඉඳලා there's a tube starting. Okay. This tube is called pulmonary artery. We call this pulmonary artery. Okay. And this pulmonary artery breaks into two branches. This one we right side right pulmonary artery. This we call it left pulmonary artery, right pulmonary artery and left pulmonary artery. The point where the pulmonary artery starts, we have another little door, a little valve. We call it semilunar valve. So many terms, Damaya. මේ valve එකට අපි කියනවා semilunar valves. Okay. Then, up to that point again, clear? I'm asking you step by step just to make sure that you understand everything. Up to that point, is it clear? Okay. So what this does is, Lamai, now here, there is deoxygenated blood now in the right ventricle. Right ventricle, we have deoxygenated blood. This deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle will enter to the pulmonary arteries through the semilunar valves and will go to the lungs. Right pulmonary artery will take deoxygenated blood to the right lung. Left pulmonary artery will take deoxygenated blood to the left lung. Laman, can you excuse me for 2 minutes, please? Just give me a second. Just give me 2 minutes, huh? All right, Lamai, I'm very sorry. Okay. All right. So then where I stopped was in the right ventricle, there was deoxygenated blood. That means blood with less oxygen. So deoxygenated blood will move through the semilunar valves to the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery, kya depattata bedila. some of the deoxygenated blood will go through the right pulmonary artery to the right lung. මෙතන තියෙනවා right lung එක. Right? Here we have the right lung. And left pulmonary artery will go to the left lung. On this side, we have the left lung. Now, what happens in the lungs? Lungs will lamai, we have alveoli. Lungs will we have alveoli. And in the alveoli, we already learned under respiration that there is gas exchange happening through diffusion, right? Or there will be more oxygen inside the alveoli, so oxygen will diffuse from the alveoli to the blood capillaries, right? And carbon dioxide will diffuse from capillaries to the alveoli. So oxygen will be added to the blood. Now what will happen? Now blood has plenty of oxygen. We call this blood oxygenated blood, right? So earlier we had deoxygenated blood, but now we have oxygenated blood. Okay, so what will happen is now oxygenated blood has to come back to the heart. Okay, so then there are two other tubes like this. So there are two tubes. Now, Lamai, to the left lung, there is only one pulmonary artery taking blood, right? But when it comes to bringing oxygenated blood, two vessels come from the left lung and two vessels come from the right lung. Right? So, එක මම එතන draw කරන්න නැතුව ඉන්නා. But මේගොල්ලන් මෙහෙම ඇවිල්ලා ඒ ඔක්කොම connect වෙන්නේ මෙතනට. මේ හතර දෙනා. So these two we call them right pulmonary veins, and these two we call left pulmonary veins. Okay, so right pulmonary veins and left pulmonary veins, they will bring oxygenated blood to the left atrium. Now this blood has oxygen. Okay, then that oxygenated blood will move through the bicuspid or the mitral valve to the left ventricle, and they will get collected in the left ventricle. Up to that point, all clear, Lamai? All good? Is it clear? All right. Then finally, yes, Tenora, that's correct. Then finally, the oxygenated blood, that means blood with oxygen, they have to be taken to the rest of the body. Okay? I took a body cells that give oxygen, then so because of that, there is a vessel like this. මෙන්න මෙහෙම vessel එකක්. ලොකු vessel එකක්. It's a big vessel. මෙහෙම ගිහිල්ලා මෙහෙම උඩටත් තියෙනවා openings. එයා මෙහෙම ගිහිල්ලා. My drawing is very bad, no? මුළු body එකටම යනවා. This big vessel, we call it aorta. Aorta is the one bringing oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. So, yage branches in audita, yage branches in yatata, right? So, it brings oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. Then body cells will gihilla. This oxygenated blood will give the oxygen to the body cells, right? Will give the oxygen to the body cells, and once oxygen is given, they will become deoxygenated blood again. Again, deoxygenated blood from the top part of the body will come to the right atrium through superior vena cava, and bottom part of the body will come to the right atrium through inferior vena cava. So then there's deoxygenated blood here. Then through the tricuspid valve, they will move to the right ventricle. And then through the pulmonary arteries, they will go to the two lungs. Lungs will oxygen ad vela. Now we have oxygenated blood. They will come through the pulmonary veins to the left atrium, then move to the left ventricle through the bicuspid valve. And then from the left ventricle through the aorta, the oxygenated blood will be distributed throughout the body. ඒගොල්ලන් body cells වලට ගිහලා ආය oxygen release කරනවා. ඒ release කරන oxygen තමයි body cells cellular respiration වලට use කරන්නේ. Is that clear ළමයි? Aorta divided into 3 vessels. So it's not exactly 3. So to the top part, there are 3 main vessels going. Right? I'll check whether it's exactly 3 or not. But anyhow, a few vessels are moving, are directed upwards. Because A arteries, aortic in branches, gila ආය තව චූටි branches හදනවා. ඒගොල්ලන් ගිහලා තව චූටි branches හදනවා. එහෙමම top part එකේ මුළු body එකේ තියෙන හැම තැනටම reach කරනවා. Then මේ යටට යන කෑල්ල මේ යටට යන්නේ මේ තියෙන්නේ. ඒගොල්ලන් ගිහලා bottom part of the body they will distribute oxygenated blood. Whether aorta exactly has 3 vessels, I have to check. I mean to the top. Top එකට හරියටම 3 තියනවද කියලා මට බලන්න පොඩ හරියට double check කරන්න ඕනේ. But there are a few vessels directed upwards and the main vessel is directed downwards. In a branches තුනක් උඩට direct වෙලා තියෙනවා. Okay. So you don't have to draw this. I don't think it's really necessary, but you need to know the parts. You need to know each and every part. But I don't think drawing, I think that'll take a little bit more time. But as homework, you can practice drawing. Practice as long as you remember the parts, that's really enough. But you can take a screenshot of this. So once I share the whiteboard note, you can get it from there. Okay. Now අපි read කරමු. Read කරද්දී මම පොතේ තියෙන diagram එක go through කරන්නම් because මගේ එක මම expand කරන ගමන් draw කරා විතරයි but මේකට වඩා පොතේ තියෙන එක ටිකක් පිළිවෙලයි. Right? එකපාරට බැලුවම මේක it doesn't make sense. That's why I was explaining and slowly drawing this. Okay? So let's read. Superior vena cava. Superior vena cava from upper part of the body and inferior vena cava from lower part of the body bring in deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. And all these are key terms. Superior vena cava from upper part of the body and inferior vena cava from lower part of the body bring deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. Okay. This passes to the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. Through the tricuspid valve, ඒගොල්ලන් right ventricle එකට යනවා. Right ventricle pushes deoxygenated blood to the pulmonary arteries through semilunar valves. Then ළමයි මේ semilunar valves වලින් මෙහෙම pulmonary artery එකට push කරනවා. Then they go to left pulmonary artery and right pulmonary artery න lungs දෙකට යනවා. Pulmonary arteries take deoxygenated blood to the 2 lungs. In the lungs, oxygen is added to the blood. Now oxygen is added. Now we have oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood comes from the lungs to the left atrium through pulmonary veins. එක පැත්තකින් දෙක ගන්න එනවා. Left pulmonary veins and 2 right pulmonary veins. This passes to the left ventricle through bicuspid valve. Left ventricle එකට යනවා through the bicuspid valve. Okay. Then rest of it is in the next page, no? So let me get the next page. Okay. Left ventricle pushes the oxygenated blood to the aorta through semilunar valves. I forgot to mention this ළමයි මේ aorta එක open වෙන තැනක් තියෙනවා පොඩි dose දෙකක්. ඒ දෙකටත් අපි කියන්නේ semilunar valves කියලාම තමයි. මේ දෙකටම අපි කියන්නේ semilunar valves, right? And then aorta carries oxygenated blood to the whole body. In the body cells, oxygen in the blood is obtained to carry out cellular respiration. Again, then oxygen ටික ගන්නවානේ body cells වලින්. Again, deoxygenated blood comes back to the heart through superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Is the human heart fully clear to all of you? Give me a thumbs up if it's clear. All right. Now, this is the human body. Okay. දැන් ළමයි මේකේ කොහොමද arteries and veins තියෙන්නේ කියලා තමයි පෙන්නන්නේ. So arteries, so there's something special about arteries, right? I told you arteries are the blood vessels taking blood away from the heart. හැමලෙම ළමයි heart එකකින් යන්නේ oxygenated blood, because heart always in the heart only this entire thing happens, right? So heart taking yanne oxygenated blood, right? But so all the arteries always have oxygenated blood, but there is just one artery that contains deoxygenated blood. So all arteries what examples up example aorta. Aorta is a vessel that is taking blood away from the heart. Then pulmonary artery. මේ කියන්නේ heart එකෙන් lungs වලට blood අරන් යන එක. Then renal artery. Renal artery කියන්නේ heart එකෙන් kidneys වලට blood අරන් යන එක. Then hepatic artery. එච්චරනේ අපි මේ තුන විතරක් තියමු. Right? Otherwise it will complicate. So likewise there are so many arteries. මේ කීපයක් විතරයි. මේ arteries ගත්තාම ළමයි all these arteries contain or carry oxygenated blood. But එකම එක්කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා deoxygenated blood carry කරන. ඒ කවුද? Pulmonary artery. Remember, pulmonary artery right ventricles වලින් නම් deoxygenated blood තමයි carry කරන්නේ. So except for pulmonary artery, all arteries carry oxygenated blood. But pulmonary arteries are the only arteries carrying deoxygenated blood. All right. Then blood vessels bringing blood to the heart. හැමලේම heart එක ඇතුළට blood ගෙන කට්ටිය අපි කියන ventricles. For example, ventricles නෙවෙයි sorry ළමයි veins. Veins. Example, we can take superior vena cava is a vein because it's bringing blood to the heart. Inferior vena cava is a vein, it's bringing blood to the heart. Pulmonary veins, bringing blood to the heart. Renal vein, bringing blood to the heart. So, the thing with veins is that all veins have deoxygenated blood. All veins carry deoxygenated blood. But එකම vein එකක් විතරක් ඉන්නවා එයා oxygenated blood carry කරන්නේ. Remember pulmonary veins. Lungs වල oxygenate වෙච්ච ඒවා තමයි ආව left atrium එකට ගියේ. But pulmonary veins are the only veins carrying oxygenated blood. Can you all make a note of this, Namai, please? May they put important. So put a star and make a note. Make it fast. දැන් ළමයි give me a thumbs up. Okay. Others? All right. So let's move on to the next part. Double blood circulation. All right. ඊට කලින් අපි මෙන්න මේ diagram එක පොඩ්ඩක් go through කරන්න ඕනේ. Right. So now ළමයි, if you look at this human body, right? මෙතන පෙන්නන්නේ කොහොමද oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood move වෙන්නේ කියලා. Now the darkly shaded part is oxygenated blood. The light shaded part is deoxygenated blood. Right? So, Balanna, in this diagram, only one side shows oxygenated blood, the other side shows deoxygenated blood. But this is just for the diagram. Arogana clearly pain with oxygenated, deoxygenated goes everywhere. But the pattern color penalatin ogana clearly there in the okay? Otherwise, it's everywhere. So, if you look at heart, right? Onna metana, this is the top part of the body, and inferior vena cava deoxygenated blood comes. Then this is the bottom part of the body, inferior vena cava deoxygenated blood comes to the heart, right? Then that deoxygenated blood goes to the right ventricle, and then a ventricle lungs deකට යනවා. දෙ පැත්තම පෙන්ලා නැති හින්දා මෙතන එක පැත්තයි පෙන්ලා තියෙන්නේ. But lungs වලට යනවා. Lungs වලදී oxygen add වෙනවා. Oxygen add වෙලා oxygenated blood comes to the left atrium. From that oxygenated blood moves to the left ventricle. Then taking aortic through upper part of the body and lower part of the body move. Right? So upper part of the body means head, then hands and all that. And the lower part of the body, balanna, there's one going to liver. It's called hepatic artery. There's one, so all of these are carrying oxygenated blood. There's another artery that supplies blood to the intestines. Then there's another artery supplying blood to the renal artery. Then there's another artery that carries blood to the lower parts of the body and legs. So all of these are carrying oxygenated blood, right? Then, ඊට පස්සේ දැන් ඒවට oxygen දුන්නාට පස්සේ the blood will not have enough oxygen, so we call it deoxygenated blood. So, මෙතන ළමයි there's a little typo. Textbook එකේ diagram එකේම වෙනසක්. This is not artery, this is vein. Can you cut and change that? All right. So then, lamai, this is the vein that carries blood from lower parts of the body, right? Yeah, deoxygenated blood gena lower part of the body. Then kidneys will in deoxygenated blood heart renal vein. Then liver can deoxygenated blood in hepatic vein. But you can see there's an artery bringing blood to the intestines, but there's no artery taking blood from the, sorry. There is an artery bringing blood to the intestine, but there is no vein carrying blood from the intestine. That is because intestines වල ඉඳන් deoxygenated blood lungs වලට, sorry, liver එකට තමයි යන්නේ. Not directly here, it's going to the liver, and from the liver only it goes to the heart. So මෙන්න මේ චූටි කරන්න අපි කියනවා hepatic portal vein. The liver වලට ගියාම liver වලින් තමයි deoxygenated blood heart එකට යන්නේ. From the top parts of the body also deoxygenated blood is coming. So that is, this is just like, you know, there are different arteries carrying blood to different organs. There are different veins carrying blood from different organs. So, you have to take a nam thiyana. All right. Is that clear? Any questions? Okay. Then we have double blood circulation. Double, before that, give me a second. I want her to do a small question. Which paper was it? So I would prefer if you do it now. Men make this is from 2019 O-level paper. මේ ඔක්කොම කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මේ නම් ටික නම් දැනගන්න ඕනේ මයුම්දී because hepatic portal වෙන්නේ මහලා තිබ්බා exam එකේ O level වල. So those names you need to remember. Textbook එකේ තියෙන ටික විතරක් දැනගත්තම ඇති. And also don't worry අපිට කියන්නේ in the past paper revision we will be discussing past papers. එතකොට හොඳ clear idea එකක් එයි ඔයගලන්ට මොනවාද papers එක අහන්නේ මොනවාද අහන්නේ නැත්තේ මොනවාද මම පාඩම් කරා because you know sometimes in term test papers they just ask whatever they want, right? Sometimes even certain provincial paper questions are a little not really O-level standard. But O-levels වල අහන්නේ යාළුවෝ concept බලන්න. ඔයගලන් ගිරා වගේ memorize කරපු අය නම් ඔයගලන්ට O-level ගිහිල්ලා ලියන්න අමාරුයි. You might get a good grade but you will struggle. You might or might not, right? Over the past 7 years there have been quite a few examples. ගිරා වගේ memorize කරොත් කරන්න අමාරුයි. So yeah, I really want y'all to start studying now and past paper revision it's going to be very enlightening and eye-opening for all of you because in the last batch also ගොඩක් ළමයින්ගේ result එක හැදුනේ past paper revision එකෙන්. ඒකයි මම syllabus එකේ කොතන හිටියත් අපි we are starting past paper revision in August because it's that important. Then you know I think out of all the students I would say ගිය batch එකේ ඒ තියෙනවා ළමයි 175කට විතර වගේ 75ක් 80ක් විතර වගේ 75ක් විතර 180ක්ම කියන්න බෑ. About 75% of the students who sat for O-levels from my batch, they all have A for science. Then I would say like that's quite a bit, even 80%. And there's a few B's actually, a few B's, maybe like 15% වගේ B's, and a few C's as well. C වලට පල්ලෙහා නම් මම දැන් රෙකෝඩ් වෙච්ච කිසි රිසල්ට් එකක්වත් නැහැ C වලට පල්ලෙහා. But there were 2 students with C's. Unfortunately, ඒ කියන්නේ කොහොම කියන්නේ එකම ක්ලාස් එකකට ළමයින්ගේ results වෙනස් වෙන්නේ from the way you study and the way you stay for the class because ඒක හොඳට පේනවා patterns වලින්. So when you have a lower grade and like you know a certain student has a lower grade for O levels and if I look at the patterns like attendance maybe class එකට interact කරන විදිය ඒ ඔක්කොම බැලුවම the patterns make sense, right? So if your attendance is low, you know those certain students they pay fees on time and they like they even request the recordings and all that but they don't watch it and they don't attend to the class properly. So ඒ වගේ certain patterns are there. මම ඒක කියන්නේ I don't ever judge students because your O-level grade doesn't define you. It doesn't judge you, and it's just an exam in your life. So I never judge. But O-level grade matters up to a certain extent because it's your big serious exam, right? ශිෂ්‍යත්වය එහෙම එච්චර ශිෂ්‍යත්වය ළමයි මැරුණාට ශිෂ්‍යත්වය කියන්නේ එච්චර වැදගත් දෙයක් නෙවෙයි. ඉස්කෝලේ මාරු කරනවා නම් තමයි ශිෂ්‍යත්වය වැදගත්. But O-level is your real serious exam. Therefore, the O-level results matters quite a bit. ඒකයි අර ඒක හොඳට කරන්න also like maybe your parents are expect කරනවා ඇති teachers expect කරනවා ඇති ඊපස්සේ ඉස්කෝලේ ළමයි එක comparison එකක් එක ඔයගලන්ට කරන්න ඕනේ ඇති but whatever it is I don't want you all to unnecessarily pressurize yourself because you guys are still kids. ඒකයි මම කියන්නේ දැන් ඉඳන් කරන්න කියලා. අන්තිම මොහොත කරොත් ඒක හරියම අනවශ්‍ය stress එකක්. මම ඕතරම් ළමයි දැක්කත් even last batch I had a few students who were like කියන්නේ මානම විතර stress වෙලා like you know එහෙම වුණාම එච්චර efficient නැහැ කරද්දී. Not very productive. So ඒකින්ද and some of them actually got A's. So ඒක අන්තිම මොහොතේ මැරිගෙන හරි කරා. That's a different story. But එහෙම වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. That's what I'm saying. So දැන් ඉඳන් කරන්න and ගොඩක් ළමයි results ආවට පස්සේ thank කරන්න අරවට මේවට ගොඩක් messages and calls දෙද්දි ඒගොල්ලෝ හැමෝම කිව්වේ past paper revision එක ගැන. So they said how life changing the past paper revision was, even especially for maths. There was a student who was like very ඒ කියන්නේ maths වලට ගොඩාක් අඩු results යාට තිබ්බේ. So then ඒගේ අම්මත් මට call කරලා කිව්වා මට individually හරි යාට sessions කීපයක් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. I actually don't have much time to do individual sessions, but I think I did like one එක session එකක් දුකෙත් මම යාට කරා. Just because අම්මගේ කීම හංග දාන්න බැරි හින්දා, but after that I could not find time. එයාටයි මට දෙන්නටම පුළුවන්. So yeah, so he just stayed for the class only. No, normal past paper class එක හිටියේ individual sessions මුකුත් කරන්න හම්බුන්නේ නැහැ. But එයා තනිකර past paper revision class එකෙම තමයි ගොඩ දාගත්තේ. He was quite hardworking, I would say. And yeah, and he got an A for maths. So එයාට ගොඩාක් අඩු results තිබ්බේ for term test and all that. So I was I kind of had a certain level of confidence because I knew that he was hardworking. But yeah, that really makes me happy. It really makes me very happy. But again, මං ළමයින්ගේ results අහනවා මං කවදාවත් මං කිසිම ළමයිගේ result අඩුද වැඩිද කියලා මං ඒගොල්ලන්ට අයියෝ අඩුයිනේ අයියෝ වැඩිනේ එහෙම කියලා මං කවදාවත් කියන්නේ නැහැ. Because all of them are my students despite of their result. But all I'm saying is I don't want you all to regret later. එක්සෑම් එක වුණාට පස්සේ අයියෝ මේක කරා නම් හරි අයියෝ මේක මෙහෙම වුණා නම් හරි අයියෝ මම තව ටිකක් පාඩම් කරා නම් හරි ඊට රිසල්ට් ආවට පස්සේ මේක මෙහෙම කරා නම් හරි කියලා අර එහෙම regrets තියන්න ඕනේ නැහැනේ. So I don't want you all to regret because regretting is not a very nice feeling, you know. It really like puts us down. So ඒක හින්දා I'm telling you these things not because your O-level result judges you or defines you. It's only a part of your life. It's not who you are. But at the same time, up to a certain extent, O-level matters. Right? ඒක හින්දා ඒක හිතට අරගන්න because later on you don't want to regret. Or at the last minute you don't want to stress yourself out. Right? Yeah, so with that little message, මම දැන් මේව කොච්චර කිව්වද ගිය බැච් එකෙත් එහෙමයි මම පටන් grade 10 ඉඳන්ම කියනවා but එහෙම කරලත් සමහර අය අන්තිම මොහොතේ දඟලනවා right and then results ආවට පස්සේ සමහර අය like they're regretting and all that messages උත් දානවා අයියෝ මෙහෙම කරා නම් හොඳයි නෙමෙයි එහෙම කියලා but it's too late right ඒකින්ද please take it to heart මේ ඔක්කොම from experience from real life examples only I'm telling you තව කෙනෙකුට එහෙම දෙයක් වුණා. ඔයගොල්ලන් හිතන්න එපා මට නම් එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මට අන්තිම මොහොත කරන්න එහෙම හිතන්න එපා. තව ළමයෙකුට ඒ දේ වුණා නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ඒක වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So ඒකින්ද prepare beforehand. Right? Because that's how it is. Don't be overconfident. Be confident. ඔයා මොකක් lesson එකක් පාඩම් කරලා okay I studied this. Have that confidence. But what is overconfidence? ඒක පාඩම් කරලත් නැහැ lessons පාඩම් කරලත් නැහැ මට කරගන්න පුළුවන් අන්තිම මොහොත කරොත් මට like තා මාස දෙක තුනක් තියලා ඔක් කරාම ඇති ඒ වගේ stupid overconfidence එකක් තියාගන්න එපා that's very toxic have confidence in what you have done don't be stupidly foolishly overconfident of what you are going to do at some point right don't overestimate yourself in that right because මේ වගේ lessons ඔයගොල්ලන් දැන් ඉඳන් ගන්න ඕනේ මොකද after a few years, you guys are adults, you will be stepping out to the real world. So that's the difference between being confident and overconfident. Okay. So what I wanted you all to try is මේ තුනේ පා මෙන්න මේ තුන first 3 Roman numbers. This diagram doesn't matter, only this diagram. දැන් අපි heart එක already කරපු ඉඳ ඒ heat එකටම I want you all to try this. Okay. මම බර කියන අතර කරාද already? Okay, good. අනිත් අයට I will give I think this is 2019. Okay, I'll set a 5-minute timer for others also. So yeah, quickly do. All right, lamai done. Give me a thumbs up if you have finished. Okay. Name the blood vessels A, B, C, and D. What is A?
Superior vena cava.
Yes. Mom, because it takes time, but let's just have a discussion. A is superior vena cava because superior vena cava is a vein bringing deoxygenated blood from the upper parts of the body. Okay, what is B? Okay, Mayumdi.
Aorta.
Okay, Ashwita. Okay, Vindi. Okay, Thinura. Yes, it's aorta. Aorta is the artery, not okay. Aorta is the artery that is taking oxygenated blood from the left ventricle to the whole body. What is C? Yes, Mayumdi. Others?
Left pulmonary artery.
Yeah. Pulmonary veins, yeah?
That's D, Tisha.
Yeah. C is pulmonary artery. Left ki them dala specific kunata kamak because it looks like they're pointing to the left, but you can even put just generally pulmonary artery kila them pulmonary artery, yeah. So I'm sorry I missed your question with me. I just only saw it now. Is there any specific reason for them to be named like this? Because if we reverse pulmonary artery to pulmonary vein and vice versa, then all arteries will carry oxygenated blood. Yeah. හැබැයි arteries අපි define කරන්නේ oxygenated blood carry කරන අය and veins අපි define කරන්නේ deoxygenated blood carry කරන අය කියලා නෙවෙයි. Arteries are always vessels that carry blood away from the heart. So pulmonary artery, even though it carries deoxygenated blood, it's carrying it away from the heart. ඕනම arteries වල definition එක oxygenated blood carry කරනවා නෙවෙයි. Arteries වල definition එක any blood vessel carrying blood away from the heart. So all blood vessels carrying blood away from the heart, that means arteries, have oxygenated blood. එක්කෙනෙකුට විතරක් deoxygenated blood, that is pulmonary artery. Veins කියන්නේ deoxygenated blood carry කරන නෙවෙයි. Veins කියන්නේ heart එකට blood ගෙන අය. That's how we define. So all the veins or all the veins that bring blood to the heart actually bring deoxygenated blood. එක්කෙනෙක් විතරක්, that is pulmonary veins විතරක් oxygenated blood ගෙන. So that is the definition. Is that clear with me? Okay. So, Lama, just to clarify, C is pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery. Right ventricle එකෙන් පටන් ගන්න pulmonary artery. D කියන්නේ pulmonary veins. දෙපැත්තෙම තියනවා D. D is pulmonary veins. A කියන්නේ superior vena cava, B is aorta, C pulmonary artery, D pulmonary vein. Okay. When comparing with the composition of the blood flowing through D, what is the main difference in the composition of the blood flowing through C?
Like in pulmonary arteries are the only arteries carrying deoxygenated blood. Pulmonary veins are the only veins carrying oxygenated blood.
Correct, but yes. But CD ke letters deke use karana honda, yeah? Because since they have asked that in the question. So C carries,
Okay, teacher.
okay, so C has deoxygenated blood and D has oxygenated blood. C has deoxygenated blood because it's pulmonary artery. D has oxygenated blood because it's pulmonary vein. What is the valve named E?
Bicuspid valve, and its other name is mitral valve.
Okay, Ashwita says bicuspid. Tinura says bicuspid. Mayum also says bicuspid. Did somebody say unmute?
Bicuspid valve.
Rashmika, your voice is a little low. Did you say bicuspid? බාන රශ්මිකා ඔයාගේ මයික් එක ගිහිල්ලා මයික් එක ළඟ අයිකන් එකක් තියෙන එක ක්ලික් කරාම audio settings තියෙනවා. එතන input volume එක වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා බලන්න. I remember earlier also it happened to you, no? One day or 2 days. Just try that next time when you unmute. Just try that. I like it actually when you like unmute and talk. So others also, if you can unmute and talk, that would be nice. In the discussion at least. I wrote oxygen concentration in pulmonary veins is higher than pulmonary arteries. Yeah, correct. Oxygen concentration in pulmonary veins is higher than pulmonary arteries. Correct. CD के ना letters देके use करना. That would be better because that's how they ask the question. So these things I will discuss more. These things we will discuss more when we're doing the past paper revision, because I will be giving you a lot of tips and tricks on how to answer question එක අහන විදියට answer කරන්න කොහොමද, question එක අහන විදියෙන් මොකක්ද අහන්නේ කියලා අපි කොහොමද තේරුම් ගන්න. So all of these we will discuss. Yes, Evindi, the other name for bicuspid valve is mitral valve. mitral, mitral valve. Okay. Mitral here. All right, then let's move on to double blood circulation. When blood circulates once through the body, it flows twice through the heart. When blood circulates once through the body, it flows twice through the heart in humans. This is called double blood circulation. Okay, මේක එච්චර හිතන්න දෙයක් නෑ. මෙන්න මේ හිතමු. මෙන්න මෙහෙම heart එක තියෙනවා. මෙහෙම lungs තියෙනවා. මම මුළු body cells ඔක්කොම ටික මේ එකක් මෙහෙම නිකන් ලියලා පෙන්නනසු. Here when I write body, that means all the body parts in our human body, but my එකකින් විතරක් ලියලා පෙන්නන්නයි. Just so that it's easy for me to show you. ඔන්න මාන වෙන දෙයක්. ඔන්න body එකේ ඉඳලා deoxygenated blood එනවා heart එකට to the right atrium. Right atrium එකෙන් right ventricle එකට ගිහිලා right ventricle එකෙන් deoxygenated blood යනවා lungs වලට. Actually, oh sorry. Actually, let me show you using a different color. On again, body cells වල ඉඳන් deoxygenated blood heart එකේ එනවා through superior vena cava, inferior vena cava to the right atrium. Right atrium එකෙන් right ventricles වලට යනවා. Right ventricles වලින් pulmonary artery එකෙන් lungs වලට යනවා. Lungs වලදී oxygen add වෙලා oxygenated blood comes to the heart through pulmonary veins and then to the left atrium, then to the left ventricle, then through the aorta, මුළු body එකටම යනවා. May directions නෙවෙයි, but basically this is what happens, right? But this is like a little shape of an 8, ne? 8 we can number 8 වල shape එක තමයි යන්නේ. බලන්න lungs වලින් cross වෙන්න එකපාරයි. Body කියන එකනොත් cross වෙන්න එකපාරයි, but heart එකෙන් දෙපාරක් cross වෙනවා. That is what we say double blood circulation. During this entire one cycle, මේක cycle එකක්. ඒ cycle එකේ heart එක through දෙපාරක් cross වෙනවා. That's why we call it double blood circulation. Body එකෙන් heart එකට ඇවිල්ලා heart එක through තමයි lungs වලට යන්නේ. lungs වලින් heart එක through තමයි body එකට යන්නේ. So during one circulation, blood crosses heart twice. Is that clear, Laman? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. So heart, the circulation between heart and lungs, we call it pulmonary circulation. This is weird. Then circulation between heart and body, we call it systemic circulation. මේ දෙකට තමයි අපි totally කියන්නේ double blood circulation. Would you be able to write this, please? Both of these together, all of these together only we call double blood circulation. Okay. Quickly draw this number. Done, Lamai? All right. So quickly, let's move on. The two circulations are pulmonary circulation, the circulation where blood flows through the lungs, and then systemic circulation where blood flows through the rest of the organs. All right. Okay. Heartbeat. Atria and ventricle. Okay, now this is something interesting ළමයි. දැන් ඕගොල්ලන් හිතන්නේ දැන් ඕගොල්ලන් අනිවාර්යයෙන් මෙහෙම තමයි හිතන්නේ. කොහමද? ඔන්න blood එනවා superior vena cava inferior vena cava වලින් right atrium එකට එනවා. ඔන්න එක batch එකක් එනවා. First batch of blood. Then a blood ටික goes to the right ventricle, then goes to the pulmonary artery and to the lungs. The lungs වලින් left pulmonary veins වලින් ඇවිල්ලා left atrium එකට ඇවිල්ලා left ventricle එකට ඇවිල්ලා aorta එකෙන් යනවා. First batch එක. ඒ ගිහිලි ඉවරුණාට පස්සේ එනවා second batch එක. Second batch එක ඇවිල්ලා මෙහෙම ගිහිල්ලා and then මෙහෙම ඇවිල්ලා මේකට ඇවිල්ලා ඔන්න second batch එකත් එහෙම යනවා. ඒක ගියාට පස්සේ third batch එක එනවා. එහෙම නෙවෙයි ඇත්තටම වෙන්නේ. එහෙම වෙන්න ගියොත්ම heart will be very slow. heart එක කරන්නේ මෙහෙමයි. Okay, listen very carefully. ඔන්න first batch එක එනවා superior vena cava inferior vena cava එකේ right atrium එකට. ඇවිල්ලා right ventricles වලට යනවා. right ventricles වලින් මෙහෙම lungs දෙකට යනවා. right lungs දෙකට ගිහිලා lungs දෙකේ oxygen add වෙලා oxygenated blood left pulmonary vein එකයි right pulmonary vein එකෙනුයි left atrium එකට එනවා. first batch එකේ ඒවා. ඒ එනකොටම another batch අලුත් batch එක second batch එකේ deoxygenated blood superior vena cava inferior vena cava වලින් right atrium එක fill වෙනවා. එකට වෙන්නේ ඔක්කොම. first batch එකේ කට්ටිය lungs වල ඉඳන් left atrium එකට එද්දී අලුත් batch එකක් right atrium එකට එනවා. ඊට පස්සේ පරණ batch එකේ ටික left atrium එකේ ඉඳන් left ventricle එකට ආවම එනකොටම අලුත් batch එකේ කට්ටිය right atrium ඉඳලා right ventricles වලට එනවා. then පරණ batch එකේ කට්ටිය left ventricle එකේ ඉඳන් aorta එක through යද්දී පරණ batch එකේ කට්ටිය right ventricle එකේ ඉඳන් pulmonary arteries වලින් lungs දෙකට යනවා. okay ගිහිල්ලා ඔන්න දැන් මේ batch එක ඉවරයි. what happens now? The second batch comes from pulmonary veins to the left atrium. ඒ එනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? third batch එකෙන් එනවා right atrium එකට. so that means පරණ batch එක I hope you understood. එක batch එකක් lungs වල ඉඳන් left atrium එකට එද්දිම අලුත් batch එකක් right atrium එක fill වෙනවා. එකක්වත් empty තියෙන්නේ නැහැ. Do you understand that? Is that clear to you? Okay, good. right අන්න ඒක හින්දා ඒ එක atria එකක් තනියෙන් නෙවෙයි atria දෙක එකට තමයි වැඩ කරන්නේ. when the left ඔයාලට මම පෙන්නේ මේක උගන්න පෙන්නේ මොන සයිඩ් එක විදිහද මගේ from you I think say mirror වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ මගේ වීඩියෝ එක. I don't know how you see it. when I raise my hand, what do you see? Hurry, whatever. Anyways, let's say anyway, this is my right side. This is my left side. Okay. So, පරණ batch එකේ oxygenated blood එක left atrium එකට එනකොට අලුත් batch එකේ deoxygenated blood right atrium එකට එනවා. ඊළඟට atria දෙකම එකට contract වෙනවා. එකට contract වුණාම මෙයාගේ oxygenated blood උයි මෙයාගේ deoxygenated blood උයි ventricles දෙකට හැරෙනවා. so atria දෙක එකට තමයි contract වෙන්නේ. එතකොට මෙයාගේ oxygenated blood and මෙයාගේ deoxygenated blood ventricles දෙකට එකපාරට තමයි හැලෙන්නේ. then ventricles දෙකත් එකට තමයි contract වෙන්නේ. පරණ batch එකේ oxygenated blood in my left ventricle, අලුත් batch එකේ deoxygenated blood in my right ventricle, they both contract together. so අලුත් batch එකේ deoxygenated blood will go to the lungs. පරණ batch එකේ oxygenated blood will go to the aorta. That will happen together. Is that clear? Is that clear, Lamai? Okay. So, atria and ventricles of the heart contract to pump blood out of the heart. Rest for now. Pump blood out, contract to pump blood out of the heart. So contract na heart එක atria contract වෙනවා ventricles contract වෙනවා. මේව contract වෙන එකයි relax වෙන එකයි තමයි heart beat කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? So if you take the heartbeat of a person, අපි දැන් මෙතන අල්ලුවම pulse එක දැනෙන්නේ. Pulse is also the heartbeat because aorta එකෙන් blood pump වෙද්දි මේ හැම blood vessels වලම යනවා. So heartbeat is generally 72 beats per minute. So මෙතන හොඳට focus එකේ අත තියන් හිටියම සමහරගේ heartbeat එක දැනෙනවා. If you have a like thick fat layer, if you're a little chubby, පොඩ්ඩක් එක දැනෙනවා අඩුයි. That's only because there's a fat layer covering. But if you are a little thin වගේ උගන් ටිකක් දැනෙනවා වැඩි. ඒ වගේ දැන් neck එකේ මෙන්න මේ හරිය වගේ චුට්ටක් දැනෙනවා. So ඒ වගේ ටිකක් sensitive තැන් තියෙනවා where you can check the pulse. Now doctors are ගොඩක් stethoscope එක they keep it straight on to the heart, right? But in Eastern medicine වගේ doctors සමහරවිට තියන මෙහෙම ඇඟිලි දෙකක් මෙතන තියෙනවා to check the pulse. Then මෙතන තියෙනවා මෙහෙමනේ මෙහෙම තියෙනවා to check the pulse. So yeah. So 72 beats per minute.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes, Ashita.
If we try for someone else also, can we hear the heartbeat sound?
Pulse you can feel. Heartbeat sound only if you keep your ear on that person's heart. But
Yeah.
That's a little weird. But
Yes.
එහෙම බලන්න විදියක් තියෙනවා ශ්‍රිතා. You know, like it doesn't have to be a medical stethoscope. You know, there are like just normal stethoscopes. දැකලා
Yeah, I have
තියෙනවනේ?
once listened through the medical stethoscope recently.
Oh, that's good.
But it's a little bit scary sound.
Yeah, හොඳට ඇහෙනවනේ.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So once I also used a medical stethoscope, but I also මට මතක නැහැ මටද මගේ sisters අර තිබ්බේ කියලා, but there was this like play item වගේ, not like very අර නිකන් අර පාට පාට toy එකක් නෙවෙයි. It was like a normal stethoscope. It was obviously not medical, නිකන් play item එකක් වගේ තමයි ඒක තිබ්බේ. It looked pretty real though. ඒක හොඳටම වැඩ කරා. That ඒකෙන් තමයි මට මතකයි heart beat එක check කරනවා. But I also have checked the pulse rate. Back in university, there was this some practical or something where we checked pulse rate. දුවන exercise කරපු ගමන් එකිනෙක pulse rate එක, resting එකිනෙක pulse rate එක අපි එහෙම බැලුවා. So and then later I tried to check my own pulse rate also. So generally 68 to 72 range එකේ සමය තියෙනවා. You can also like fully focus and check your pulse rate. Pulse එක you feel it, no? So there's no hearing. But here, if you want to hear, you can use a stethoscope on yourself also. Animals with
I
higher...
listened to my mother's heartbeat when I was small.
Oh, yes, yes. I have done that to my sisters.
Like using the stethoscope, this medical
Oh,
stethoscope.
oh, really? Mama කෙලින්ම ඒක තියලා මැහුවා.
No, like once I
Okay.
visited a relative who is a doctor, so like there he let me to listen to the heartbeat sound.
That's interesting. I also have used it once, but මට එච්චර මතක නැහැ කොහොමද උනේ කියලා එක. But yeah, medical stethoscope obviously works very well. Animals with higher hearing can hear our heartbeat. When it comes to the heartbeat, it's not really much about frequency. It's about amplitude. Amplitude ne loudness වලට මෙයා වෙන්නේ. එතකොට සමහර අයට frequency range එක නෙවෙයි but some animals can hear more. ඒගොල්ලන්ට සමහරට heartbeat එක ඇහෙනවා. Yes. But it's not about the frequency range, it's about how much of an amplitude they can hear. Okay? Depending on the amplitude. Okay, then cardiac cycle. Cardiac cycle is the complete heartbeat from its generation to the next heartbeat. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් මේ heartbeat එකක් කියලා අපි කියවනේ එක beat එකක මොනවද වෙන්නේ? That is what we are going to be discussing in cardiac cycle. එක heartbeat එකකින් තව heartbeat එකකට මොනවද වෙන්නේ? All right. Let me get this to the whiteboard. Okay. So, now I told you, right atrium gets filled with deoxygenated blood. ඒ අතරේ පරණ batch එකේ oxygenated blood will fill the left atrium. Then both the atria will contract together. Both the atria will contract together. ඒකට අපි කියනවා diastole. That part we call it diastole. Or we also call it atrial contraction. Because this is when the two atria contract. And it takes 0.1 seconds. Very important time, 0.1 seconds. Then everything fills to the ventricles. Ventricles are the fill villa. Now ventricles contract together. Right? We call it systole. Or we also call it ventricular contraction because this is where ventricles are contracted. And that takes 0.3 seconds. ඊළඟට there's a resting phase. Resting phase එකේ කවුරුත් contract වෙන නිකන් blood එහාට මෙහාට හැලෙනවා, like superior vena cava, inferior vena cava may bring blood to the atria, pulmonary veins වලින් left atrium එකට squeeze වෙන්නේ නැහැ, just blood coming to the atria. because atria වල සමහර blood ටිකක් මෙහෙම ventricles වලට හැලෙනවත් එක්ක before it contracts, some of the blood will just flow to the ventricles also. So ඒ වගේ වෙන දේවල් ටික resting phase එකේ වෙන්නේ. So ඒ වෙලේ atria contract වෙන්නෙත් නැහැ, ventricles contract වෙන්නෙත් නැහැ, they are all relaxed. We call it intervening. Intervening කියලා කියනවා, complete cardiac diastole කියලා කියනවා, atrial and ventricular relaxation කියලා කියනවා. Because this is where both atria and ventricles relax. and it takes 0.4 seconds. So if you look at the total duration, 0.1 plus 0.3 plus 0.4, it's altogether 0.8 seconds. Is that clear, Amay? Others? Okay. Then ECG. ECG of the long term is electrocardiogram. You're very familiar with this term because ගොඩක් ඔයගලන්ගේ friends, family, relatives කට්ටිය ඇති ECG ගත්ත. When there's like even a small irregularity in the heart, the first thing that the doctor recommends is getting an ECG scan. ඒකෙන් මෙහෙම පොඩි වයසයක් වගේ ගහලා මෙන්න මේ වගේ පොඩි electrical signal එකක් එනවා. Right? So can get information about heart functions, potential changes taking place in cardiac muscle cells. Because heart හැදලා තියෙන cardiac muscle cells, you remember what cardiac muscle cells are. So ඒකේ වෙන electrical changes or potential changes තමයි මේ record කරගන්න. Electrical signals. So මෙහෙම තමයි ECG එකක් තියෙන්නේ. Like this. See? So එතකොට මේකේ බලන්නේ මේවා වල කොහොමද මේ if you look at now, these are different parts. No, this P කියන part එක බලනවා. ඒ part එකේ උස පළල ආරම්භය බලනවා. T කියන part එකේ උස පළල ආරම්භය බලනවා. Normal නම් there has to be a certain height or certain shape. QRS කියන මෙන්න මේ part එක බලනවා. එහෙන් බලලා තමයි doctor decides කරන්නේ is this person's heart functions normal or not. Okay. So, මෙතන දැන් අපේ cardiac cycle එකේ we have 3 stages. So we have diastole, which is also called atrial contraction, where atria contract. අනේක පෙන්නන්නේ මේ P කියන part එක. P shows atrial contraction or diastole where atria contract. Then මේ QRS කියන මේ මුළු peak එකම පෙන්නන්නේ systole. Systole is when ventricles contract, the two ventricles contract. Systole. Then lastly, T shows complete cardiac diastole or intervening or atrial and ventricular relaxation. Right? That is what T shows. ඔය තුන තමයි ඔය මේ shapes වලින් පෙන්නන්නේ. That is ECG. Is that clear, ළමයි? Okay. Then lambda. So heartbeat එක ඇහෙනවා කියලා අපිට ඇහෙන්නේ නැත්තට මේ lambda sound එක. So stethoscope එකක් තිබ්බම ඇහෙනවා. Lambda, and also sometimes හිතන්න නිකන් ගොඩක් exercise කරපු කෙනෙක්ගේ ටිකක් ළඟින් ඉන්නකොට උනත් සමහරට heartbeat එක ඇහෙනවා. So heartbeat is always like lambda, 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 like that.
When we run in a track and relax ourselves, also we can hear the sound, teacher.
Yes. We can even hear the sound of our own heart. Yes. So එතකොට කොහොමද මේ sound එකක් එන්නේ? Sound එකක් generate වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? So ළමයි, I told you right atrium එකයි left atrium එකයි දෙකම contract වෙන එකට. Right? Both the right atrium, and the left atrium, they both contract together. එතකොට right atrium එකේ නා right ventricle එකට blood flow වෙන්නේ tricuspid valve එක through. Left atrium එකේ නා left ventricle එකට blood flow වෙන්නේ bicuspid valve එක through. So when they contract and blood flows through, and once blood is done flowing, the valves close. Since they both happen simultaneously, tricuspid valve එකයි bicuspid valve එකයි එකට තමයි close වෙන්නේ. ඒ close වෙන ශබ්ද තමයි lub sound කියලා අපිට ඇහෙන්නේ. Okay. Then, okay, I think that's clear, no? Lub sound means when tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve close during atrial contraction. Now, right ventricle and left ventricle are filled with blood. right ventricle එකේ deoxygenated, left ventricle එකේ oxygenated. In the ventricular contraction, which is systole, they both contract. They both contract and squeeze, and blood will be sent through the semilunar valves. Right ventricle එකෙන් squeeze වුණාම semilunar valve එක through pulmonary artery වලට යනවා. Left ventricle එක squeeze වුණාම semilunar valve through aorta වලට යනවා. Okay? So, once that blood is flown, semilunar valves also close. Taggala close. That's duct sound. Duct sound is when the two semilunar valves close during ventricular contraction. That's how you hear lambda, like that. So lub sound is longer than the duct sound and can be heard by keeping an ear on or a stethoscope on the chest. Okay, Lamai? Is that clear? Yeah. More or less thinner actually. Samane fist එකක් හැදුවම ඒ size එක වගේ තමයි අපේ heart එකේ size එක. Yes. I would not say the exact same size, but you know, it could be comparative. But yeah, more or less, yes. Second. Exactly. That's why we say. So the question is, how can all the functions work in that small area? That is exactly why we say the human body is such a wonder. It's so sophisticated. It's not even the human, not just the human body actually. From like microorganisms until human beings, we call ourselves the most advanced organisms. Evenakam evolution කොහොමද උනේ? එක you know, how different features have emerged and changed and evolved. It's very, very fascinating. So ඔයගලන්ට ඒක හොඳට බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්, like you don't even have to read or anything, just YouTube එකේම තියෙන evolution videos. They're quite nice. So පොඩ්ඩක් ඒ වගේ බලන්න, you will get a very you will understand the wonder of the human body, and human body is a part of the nature, so you will understand the wonder of this nature. Our body is very, very sophisticated. Harima sophisticated අපේ body. Okay. Then blood pressure. When heart pushes blood through the arteries, the pressure created due to that force on the arteries is called systolic blood pressure. Then lamai ventricles දෙක එකටනේ contract වෙන්නේ. So if we talk about the left ventricle like a contract with the blood will be pushed through the aorta. එතකොට එතන එක pressure එකක් හැදෙනවානේ. එතකොට normal in මොකක්ද body එකේ blood artery මොකක්ද artery එකකට ඒ pressure එක දැනෙනවා. Because that blood will be flown through all the arteries, no? Let's take for an example hepatic artery. Hepatic artery කොහේ පාඩු ඉන්නවා. ඔන left ventricle එක පාටම blood contract කරනවා. It contracts. Then blood will be pushed through the aorta. That blood will come to the hepatic artery in the same pressure. So when blood is pumping blood, when the heart is pumping blood, arteries were then in a pressure, we call it systolic blood pressure. That is around 110 to 120 mercury millimeters. But pressure valadi, if you remember pressure measure karana ek unit එක, obviously the SI unit is Pascal, but there was another unit called mercury centimeters. If you don't remember, you have to go through that part again. But mercury centimeters natu mercury millimeters ganna පුළුවන්. Okay? So 110 to 120 mercury millimeters. Then when now you know that there is a particular time when heart is not pumping blood, right? ඒ කියන්නේ intervening කියලා දෙන complete cardiac diastole. That is when the heart is not actively pumping blood. Heart is resting. ඒ වෙලේට arteries වලට ලොකුවට pressure එකක් දැනෙන්නේ නැහැනේ. අන්න ඒ pressure එකට අපි කියනවා diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure is when the arteries feel a lot of pressure. Diastolic pressure is when the heart is resting. එතකොට blood pump වෙන්නේ නැහැ heart එකෙන්. Therefore, they don't feel a lot of pressure, just an average pressure. So that is about 70 to 80 mercury millimeters. එතකොට අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් blood pressure express කරන්නේ systolic blood pressure over diastolic blood pressure කියලා. So in a person, blood pressure is systolic blood pressure. Now let's say මගේ නම් systolic blood pressure 120, diastolic blood pressure 80. ඔන්න ඔහොම තමයි සාමාන්‍ය express කරන්නේ. So, ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ systolic blood pressure 120, diastolic 79, you can write like this. Different people have different blood pressures. Okay, let's move on to the next page. We are almost at the last part. What are the factors affecting blood pressure? Factors affecting blood pressure are age. කක් age? සාමාන්‍ය තරුණ කාලේ blood pressure එක හොඳයි, but වයසට යනකොට blood pressure එක අඩු වෙනවා. So age affects blood pressure. Sex, which is the gender that you're born with. So males are supposed to have a little bit higher blood pressure than females, but again depending on different activities and depending on different phases in life, but generally එකම age එකේ එකම conditions වලින් දෙන්නෙක් ගත්තොත් males tend to have more high blood pressure than women. Stressful mentality. You know, there's a very popular saying that says your mental health affects your physical health. Your mental health actually does affect your physical health because excuse me, when your mental health changes, let's say you're under stress, then there are different stress hormones releasing. A stress hormones gela ape physical body eකට affect කරනවා. එතකොට when you are under stress, your blood pressure will change. Then different diseases also change the blood pressure of human being. So blood circulatory system එකේ main part එක ඉවරයි. Then we have to talk about something called the lymphatic system. But before that, lymphatic system is also part of the blood circulatory system. It's nothing new. But before that, up to this point, do you all have any questions or is everything clear?
Clear, teacher.
Okay. All right, great. Let's move on to the lymphatic system. But before that, give me 2 minutes. All right, ළමයි. Now we are moving on to the last part of blood circulatory system, which is lymphatic system. All right, so Mama made diagram එක පැත්තකින් තියලා I will show you what happens in a different diagram. Okay. Now what happens is අපි කියවන එක මෙහෙම කියවගෙන යමු. I think that would be easier for you. Blood capillaries transport blood through cells. Right? So blood capillaries කරන්නේ blood transport කරනවා cells වලට. Since then normally ළමයි artery කියලා කියන්නේ ලොකු vessel එකක්. Artery is a big vessel. Arteries පොඩි පොඩි branches වලට කැඩෙනවා because හැම cell එකකටම blood ගෙනියන්න එපා. It's not very easy. So arteries පොඩි පොඩි branches වලට කැඩෙනවා. These we call arterioles. Arterioles ඊට පස්සේ තව චූටි චූටි branches ගොඩාක් චූටි branches ගොඩකට කැඩෙනවා. So it's not something that you can really see. පොඩි ගොඩක්නේ අපි මේවට කියනවා capillary network එකක් කියලා. like පොඩි network එකක් වගේ we call it capillary network. මෙතනදි තමයි arteries gain oxygenated blood වල oxygen ටික body cells වලට යන්නේ during the capillary network. blood capillary network එකේදී තමයි ඔක්කොම oxygen ටික body cells වලට යන වෙලාව. ඒත් ඔක්කොම body cells වලට oxygen දුන්නාට පස්සේ නා capillaries වල අනිත් end එක මෙහෙම එකතු වෙනවා පොඩි branches වලින්. These branches are called venules. These venules come together and form a vein. Vein is the blood vessel that is carrying blood away from the heart. So මේ capillary network එක කියන එක very very special because this is where oxygen is transported to the body cells. Capillaries වල තමයි වෙන්නේ. The arteries, arterioles වගේ නෙවෙයි ළමයි. When you take capillaries, capillary walls are very thin. Very very thin. And thin වැඩි හින්දා white blood cells and blood plasma move out through the capillary wall. Capillary wall එක ගොඩක් thinනේ. So some certain white blood cells and also blood plasma will move out of the blood capillary through the capillary wall. Capillary walls වලින් එළියට ඇවිල්ලා capillary walls වලින් එළියට එනවා. Right? Red blood cells and some plasma proteins cannot move. Red blood cells වලට යන්න බෑ. Plasma proteins වලට යන්නත් බෑ. But white blood cells and some blood plasma can. Blood plasma can liquid part එකට පුළුවන්. The fluid move to tissue. Capillaries වල ඉඳන් body tissues වලටනේ යා move වුනේ. We call it tissue fluid. Okay. So let me show you this like this. ඔන්න තියෙන අපේ body cells. මේක හරිම simple විදිහට මම පෙන්නන්න draw කරන diagram එකක්. මීට වඩා complicated වෙන්නේ but let's draw it very simply. ඔන්න දැන් capillary එකක් මෙහෙම යනවා. So there are like other capillaries as well. I told you capillary is like a network. It's like a net. So my capillary walls are very thin now. Because they are very thin, white blood cells and blood plasma will move out. They will move out and they will fill these spaces. Body cells මැද තියෙන මේ පොඩි spaces. These white blood cells and plasma will come and fill these spaces. When white blood cells and plasma leak out of the blood capillary and fill these spaces, we call them tissue fluid. එතකොට අපි යාට කියනවා tissue fluid එක කියලා. Tissue fluid. This tissue fluid is very, very important. How is it important, ළමයි? හැම වෙලේම materials exchange වෙන්නේ tissue fluid එක through. For an example, we know blood carries nutrients like glucose, fructose, amino acids, fatty acids, glycerol, ඔක්කොම nutrients blood වලනේ යන්නේ. ඒ nutrients හිතන්න දැන් ඔන්න මෙතන තියෙනවා glucose එකක්. මේ glucose එක body cells වලට දෙන්න ඕනේ. capillary එකේ. එයා කෙලින්ම මෙහෙම දෙන්නේ නැහැ. එයා මුලින්ම tissue fluid එකට දීලා tissue fluid එකෙන් තමයි body cell එකට දෙන්නේ. So tissue fluid is like the middleman. Okay? Like like ubaits wage. So when I want to eat something, I let's say I place an order on Uber Eats or Pick Me Food. එතකොට ඒ driver තමයි tissue fluid. Okay, so store එකෙන් යාට දෙනවා, එයා අපිට ගෙනත් දෙනවා. Right, something like that. අනිත් පැත්තට හිතන්න cells වල හැදෙන carbon dioxide or any other excretory substances like urea වගේව blood capillaries වලට යවන්න ඕනේ. එයාත් මොකද කරන්නේ? මුලින් tissue fluid එකට යවලා tissue fluid එකෙන් තමයි blood capillary එකට යවන්නේ. So for whatever material exchange between the body cells and capillary, it doesn't happen directly. It happens through the tissue fluid. Is that clear to all of you, Lamai? Give me a thumbs up, please. Okay. Then put a ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. මොකද්ද ප්‍රශ්නේ? So my materials exchange එක තමයි මම දැන් ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වේ. Now the problem is now more and more white blood cells and plasma will be leaking from capillary and filling these spaces. තව එනවා කියලා කියන්නේ ළමයි, there will be a lot of tissue fluid. Right? ඒක එක ප්‍රශ්නයක්. Tissue fluid ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි වෙනවා. The amount of tissue fluid will be high. Why? Because more and more white blood cells and plasma will leak out. On the other hand, when white blood cells and plasma are leaking from the blood capillaries, blood volume එක අඩු වෙනවා. The amount of blood will decrease, right? Because white blood cells and plasma will always be leaking out. So we have two problems. One is the amount of tissue fluid increases. Number two is amount of blood decreases. So both of these are big problems. ඒක හින්දා there has to be a system where the extra tissue fluid leak වෙලා දැන් extra එනවනේ. ඒ extra tissue fluid එක කොහෙන් හරි ගිහිල්ලා ආය blood circulatory system එකට connect වෙන්න ඕනේ. It has to join back to blood. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. So, මේ ටික කොහෙන් හරි ගිහලා ආය blood වලට connect වෙන්න ඕනේ. මේ excess tissue fluid ටික blood වලට connect කරන system එක තමයි we call it lymphatic system. This is the system that is carrying excess tissue fluid back to blood circulatory system. Up to that point, is it clear? If you have any questions, please do ask. Okay. So excess tissue fluid in intercellular spaces has to be connected back to the blood circulatory system through a special tubular system. That is called the lymphatic system. එතකොට දැන් මෙතන ඉන්නකොට අපි කියන tissue fluid කියලානේ. මේ tissue fluid ටික the excess tissue fluid ටික enters the lymphatic system නේ. When it enters the lymphatic system, inside the lymphatic system we call this excess tissue fluid a special name. We call it lymph. A liquid එකට අපි lymphatic system එක ඇතුළේදී කියන්නේ lymph කියලා. So there are different parts of the lymphatic system. Do you remember in the digestive system? Small intestine के absorption कराते glucose, amino acids, vitamins, minerals ඔක්කොම absorb කරගත්තේ blood capillaries. But only fatty acids and glycerol were absorbed by lacteal. Do you remember that? Give me a thumbs up if you remember. Others? Okay. Lacteal is a part of the lymphatic system. Then also the lymphatic system ke choti vessels we call them lymph capillaries. Then there are other places called lymph nodes. Lymph nodes ගැන මම තා චුට්ටකින් කියා දෙන්නම්. So anyways ළමයි, now lymph වල මොනවාද තියෙන්නේ? If you take blood, we can say red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, Then blood plasma, including water, plasma proteins, nutrients, gases, excretory substances, hormones, enzymes. අපිට ගොඩක් කියන්න පුළුවන්. Tissue fluid වල sorry, not tissue fluid, sorry, lymph. Tissue fluid කියන්නේ lymph තමයි. Lymph වල මොනවාද තියෙන්නේ? What is their lymph? Hmm? Somebody? What is their lymph? Okay, Metna, correct. White blood cells are there. What else? Okay, I'm getting another answer. Okay, another answer and another answer. Others? Red blood cells, nah, because red blood cells cannot move, Q1. Red blood cells cannot move. So lymph වල තියෙන්නේ white blood cells and blood plasma only. Because tissue fluid කියන්නේ white blood cells and blood plasma විතරයි. Excess tissue fluid is what we call lymph. Because excess tissue fluid, when it moves to the lymphatic system, we call it lymph. And lymph වල තියෙන්නේ white blood cells and blood plasma only. So if you take blood වල ගොඩාක් එක එක ಜಾති තියෙනවානේ. But if you take lymph වල තියෙන්නේ white blood cells and blood plasma only. එතන white blood cells can be the main character. In the blood, inside blood, white blood cells really cannot be the main character because there are a lot of red blood cells, then there are platelets, then white blood cells are aduwe, and also there are so many different substances. So white blood cells වලට character එක වෙන්න බෑ. But in the lymphatic system, lymph වල තියෙන white blood cells and plasma විතරයි. So here white blood cells can be the main character. That is quite important, lamai. Because can somebody tell me what are the functions of the white blood cells? What are the functions of the white blood cells? Okay, others? What are the white blood cells' functions? Others? Okay, protection how? Just to be more specific. Others? Okay, Lama, yes. So white blood cells protect our body from infectious particles like bacteria, virus, fungi, and other like microorganisms using two methods. එකක් තමයි by phagocytosis, අනිත් එක තමයි by producing antibodies. So all of this we discussed the previous day. So when white blood cells are in blood, as I said, එයා ගොඩක් එක substances වැඩි. But in the lymphatic system, in lymph, white blood cells, plasma විතරක් ඉන්න හින්දා white blood cells can be the main character. So whatever the functions that white blood cells do, they do while white blood cells are in the lymphatic system. එයා protect කරනවා, antibodies හදනවා, phagocytosis කරනවා, ඔක්කොම කරන්නේ lymphatic system එකේ ඉඳිද්දි. That's why lymphatic system is very special. It helps white blood cells to perform their function. Okay? So then, Namai, there are places called lymph nodes, right? Neck එකේ තියෙනවා, armpits වල තියෙනවා, genital areas වල තියෙනවා, chest එක හරිය තියෙනවා lymph nodes. අපිට නිකන් බැලුවම පේන්නේ නැහැ, they're inside the body. But let's say නිකන් මොකක් හරි severe infectious particle එකක් ඔයගේ body එකට enter වෙනවා, like bacteria, could be virus or something. Then white blood cells become very active now. They do phagocytosis, so producing antibodies or whatever. ඒගොල්ලන් ෆයිට් කරන තැන් මට ඔයගන් මතකද මම කිව්වා combat areas white blood cells උයි infectious particles උයි combat කරන areas වලට තමයි lymph nodes කියලා කියන්නේ. එතකොට ළමයි during these times when an infectious particle enters your body, when white blood cells are super active fighting these particles, those lymph nodes become very active because lymph nodes are the places where this happens. They become very active and they swell because of that. So we call them swollen lymph nodes. එතකොට නම් පොඩ්ඩක් එළියට පේනවා අපි ඒකට සිංහලෙන් කියනවා කුද්දැටි කියලා. Swollen lymph nodes. Okay? We will discuss that again දැන් මේ කතා කරන් යද්දී. How is lymph flowing through lymph vessels? Lymph vessels වලින් lymph යන්නේ because of the muscles around the lymph vessels. When muscles are contracting and relaxing, a pressure එකට තමයි lymph are moving in the lymph vessels. Then lamai, let me get the next page to the whiteboard to show you this diagram. Now, the main function that the lymphatic system does is taking excess tissue fluid back to the blood circulatory system, right? දැන් කොහෙන් හරි lymphatic system එකේ තියෙන lymph ටික blood වලට join වෙන්න ඕනේ, right? So, all lymph vessels form two main vessels, thoracic duct and right lymphatic duct. They empty their lymph to the blood circulatory system. So thoracic duct empties to left subclavian vein, right lymphatic duct empties to right subclavian vein. They kiwata ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරුන්නේ නැහැ නේ අතරමනේ. Okay, let me make it clear. Now lymphatic system excess tissue fluid එක ආයි blood circulatory system එකට අරන් යනවා. Okay. එතකොට tissue fluid from the left side of the body. There are so many lymph capillaries now. Lymph capillaries and lymph vessels ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට lymph left side එකේ තියෙන lymph vessels ටික ඔක්කොම එක ලොකු lymph vessel එකකට එකතු වෙනවා. That's called the thoracic duct. Thoracic duct කියන්නේ lymphatic system එකේ ළමයි. So left side එකේ තියෙන පොඩි පොඩි lymph vessels ටික ඔක්කොම එක ලොකු lymph vessel එකකට collect වෙනවා. That's called the thoracic duct. Right side එකේ තියෙන ඔක්කොම lymph vessels ටික එක ලොකු lymph vessel එකකට collect වෙනවා. That is right lymphatic duct. Right side එකේ තියෙන ඔක්කොම lymph vessels ටික they get collected to a big lymph vessel. That is called the right lymphatic duct. Left side එකේ thoracic duct, right side එකේ right lymphatic duct. Then එතනින් තමයි blood circulatory system එකට join වෙන්නේ. Thoracic duct is a part, thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct are part of the lymphatic system. Then thoracic duct එකේ තියෙන lymph ටික එයා දෙනවා blood circulatory system එකට at the left subclavian vein. Now this is blood circulatory system. Right lymphatic duct, which is a part of the lymphatic system, එයාගේ lymph ටික blood circulatory system එකට දෙනවා at the right subclavian vein. එතන මෙතන තමයි ඒක join වෙන්නේ. මෙයාගෙන් මෙයාට දෙනවා, මෙයාගෙන් මෙයාට දෙනවා. Is that clear, ළමයි? Give me a thumbs up, please. Others? Okay. That's what this means. But when I explained, I hope you understood, right? All right. Functions of the lymphatic system, destroying infectious organisms like bacteria, virus, whatever. Because in the lymphatic system, white blood cells are the star, the main character. So white blood cells can perform very well in the lymphatic system. In the lymphatic system, white blood cells are doing this. So lymphatic system function. So this is what I said about lymph nodes, right? In lymph nodes, there are white blood cells that destroy by phagocytosis. Phagocytosis was like them. Antibodies can white blood cells are just producing soldiers, antibodies. But phagocytosis was white blood cells killing magil attack. Attack karana thana thamai lymph node එක කියලා කියන්නේ. So when there's an infectious particle in your body, white blood cells become very active and phagocytosis වලින් ඔක්කොම destroy කරලා දානවා. Destroy කරලා දාන a place second lymph node. So during that time, it becomes very active and it swells. So we call it swollen lymph nodes. In Sinhala we call it kuddati. So දැන් ඔයගලගේ ජෙනරේෂන් එකේ ගොඩක් අය අතර මමත් ලොකුවට associate කරන term එකක් නෙමෙයි kuddati, but if you take like 1 or 2 generations before us, it's pretty common, this word. It's pretty common. Not with us. Maybe you guys have heard of the term. If you have heard, good for you, right? ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි generally වැඩි use කරන්නේ නැහැ, and මොකද මේ lymph nodes swell වෙන එක මාරම common නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ මෙහෙමයි. lymph nodes swell, that's common, but එළියට පේනවා එච්චර common නැහැ. lymph nodes swell and ඒවා ගොඩක් ඇඟ ඇතුළෙම තමයි swell වෙන්නේ. Oh, really? මෙන්න මේ හරිය තමයි ගොඩක් තියෙන්නේ මේ neck එකේ. You can feel it. ගොඩක් normally feel වෙන අර infectious particle එකක් තියදී ඔක මේ දැනෙනවා. Infectious ඉද්දී. Yes, under the jaw. Yes, that area. So there are other lymph nodes as you see. Liver එකේ තියෙනවා ඒක internal. ගොඩක් වෙලාවයි swollen lymph nodes internally වෙන හින්දා අපිට වැඩි එළියට පේන්නේ නැහැ, but සමහර වෙලාවට එළියට පේනවා. Then heart එකේ තියෙනවා, intestines, skin, armpits, throat. So these are the locations. That's it. Then you have to write a short note. Up to this point, do you all have any questions?
No, teacher.
Okay. Is everything clear, Lamai?
Yes.
Okay. Others? Mayumdi, Rashmika, Savinu, Vihan, what do you all think? Mayumdi, okay. Rashmika, Vihan, okay. Rashmika, is it clear? Yeah, show that either. All right. You have to write the short note. Coding excretory system short note lamai. මට තාම එවපු short note correct කරන්න බැරි වෙනවා. That's a different story. But මං කිව්වා මේ දවසේ එවන්න කියලා උගන් එවන්න ඕනේ. මං කීප දෙනෙක්ගේ digestive correct කරා. තාම මට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ ගොඩක් according to what Miss Divya said, respiratory system and excretory system වැඩි ඇවිල්ලා තිබුණේ නැහැ. Make sure that you send it before the next class. Okay. Yeah. ගොඩක් week කියන්නේ හෙට අද කරනවා නම් හෙට වගේ උගාට එවන්න පුළුවන් would be very good, because during weekends it's easy for me to correct rather than weekdays. So if you could do that, that would be much appreciated. Okay. This is the last system that we are going to be learning. Process of අපි මේ සම් වෙලා තියෙනවා අපි මේ පුළුවන් ටික discuss කරලා we'll wrap up there and then we'll continue next day. Process of coordination and homeostasis in human. Okay, what is irritability? Irritability is the ability to respond to stimuli coming from internal and external environments. A change taking place in the environment that can be detected by sensory organs is called a stimulus. The reaction for a stimulus is a response. Example, you step on a thorn, you suddenly feel the pain, this is the stimulus. Then you take your leg away, this is the response. Ability to respond like this is irritability. Okay, so that was just a bunch of words. Let's discuss. So, a change that is taking place in the internal or external environment that you can detect from your sensory organs. So, you know, eyes, ears, tongue, nose, skin, all of these are our sensory organs, right? ඒවට detect වෙන ඕනම change එකක් අපි stimulus එකක් කියලා කියනවා. So, for an example, අපි කියමු මම හිතන්නේ මේ example එක මම grade 10 වලත් උගන්වන්න කිව්වනේ අර බව්වෙක් දුවන් එන එක. So there's a dog glaring and like, you know, glaring its teeth, salivating, looking very scary, which for me, it's quite impossible because I really love dogs. So I don't know about you. But anyways, for this example, මට ඒක කියද්දි මතක් වුණේ because back in the days a long time ago I used to be very scared of dogs. So එතකොට පාරේ ඉන්න හැම බව්වම මට පේන්නේ හරියම scary විදියට. But I think until I was like 20 years old, I was very scared of dogs because I had a childhood trauma. But when I was like 1 year old, I think something bad happened. So I had like some sort of a trauma. So I was really scared. Then at around 20 years old, we got like a very small puppy. එයාව ගත්තයින් පස්සේ තමයි අතන මට dogs වලට තියෙන fear එක නැති වෙලා. Now I really love dogs and all sorts of dogs, and especially me, my sisters, even my partner, we are like huge fans of even street dogs. So then මට dogs කවදාවත් scary විදිහට පේන්නේ නැහැ. මේ example එක කියද්දි මට මතක් වුණේ. But anyways, let's just assume that there's a dog glaring its teeth, salivating and looking very scary, right? Or dhyan balagen inna. That is a change happening in the environment. A change එකක් ඒකට පේනවා. That is change that you can sense from your sensory organs. You can see it from your eyes. You can hear the dog barking from your ears. So two sensory organs are detecting that change. So the dog glaring its teeth, looking at you, barking, that is the stimulus. මොකක් හරි ඔයාගේ sensory organs වලට detect වෙන මොකක් හරි change එකක් කරන එක stimulus එකක්. You step on a thorn. කටුවක් පෑගෙනවා. That's a change. That's a stimulus. Because it was sensed by the sensory organ, which is the skin. All right. So, Eva, yes, Ashwin.
We studied like coordination, stimuli in 10.
Yeah,
in the 8th
lesson, yes. There we talked about irritability, coordination, පොඩ්ඩක් අපි කතා කරානේ.
And once, like you told, example for that hot teacup.
Hot teacup, yes. As soon as you touch a hot teacup, ඒකෝගේ skin එකට තමයි දැනෙන්නේ. So the hot teacup, that's a stimulus. So any change that is happening in the internal or external environment that can be detected by your sensory organs. Like when you're going to the school, you see your best friend, you become very happy. That's a stimulus. Then stimulus එකට ඔයා කොහොමද react කරන්නේ? That is called response. When you see your best friend, you smile, you wave your hand, blah, blah, blah. That is the response. When you step on a thorn, you take your hand away. Sorry, you take your leg away quickly. That is the response. When you touch a hot teacup, immediately you take your hand away. That's the response. When you see that glaring dog, the barking dog, scary looking dog, you either stay or you run. Right? You maybe stay, you might stay and think, මෙයා යාළු කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා. නැත්නම් ළඟ තියෙන කෝටුවක් අරගෙන මෙයා ෆයිට් කරනවා කියලා හිතනවා. නැත්නම් ඔයා දුවනවා. මොකද ඔයා රියැක්ට් කරන විදිය තමයි response කියලා කියන්නේ. So stimulus, whatever is happening, response is how you're reacting. So then මේ ඔක්කොටම overall අපි කියනවා irritability. When something is happening in the environment, ඔයාට ඒකට react කරන්න පුළුවන්. You have that ability. බව්වෙක් වාගේ පැත්තට දුවන් එදී ඔයාට ඒකට react මොකක් හරි reaction එකක් you can do it. When you step on a thorn, you can do some reaction. Right? When you touch a hot teacup, you can react. You have the ability to react. So that having that ability to react or respond, that way we call it irritability. Let's say if a person is paralyzed, fully paralyzed, ඒගොල්ලන්ට react කරන්න පුළුවන් ability එක නැහැ. Then they don't have irritability. But we are privileged, we are very fortunate that we can respond to these stimuli, different stimuli. So we have that ability, we call it irritability. All right. So is this term clear to you, Lamai? Irritability කියන term එක ඔයගන්ට තේරුණාද? So we learned 3 special terms: irritability, stimulus, response. Okay. Then coordination. Coordination කියලා කියන්නේ adaptation of body according to the changes of internal and external environment. ඒ කියන්නේ respond කරද්දී කොහොමද respond කරන්නේ? Now, my example like very simple, but I have told you before also. When you step on a thorn, the way you respond is ඔයාගේ brain එකට message එකක් යනවා brain එකෙන් කියනවා දැන් කකුල ගන්න කියලා ඒ message එක කකුලට යනවා ඔයා කකුල ගන්නවා එතන පොඩි coordination part එකක් තියෙනවා right කකුලෙන් message එක brain එකට ගියේ නැත්නම් brain එක දන්නේ කකුල ගන්න ඕනේද කියලා right එතකොට ඔයා කකුල ගන්න නැහැ ලේ ගලනවා you are just staying there but fortunately it's not like that as soon as you step on a stone quick message goes to the brain sends a quick message take the leg away when you touch a hot teacup a message quickly brain එකට යනවා brain එක කියන අත ගන්න කියලා quickly ඒක අතට යනවා because brain වලට තමයි processing power එක තියෙන්නේ අතට නෑ ඒතකොට තමයි අත ගන්න ඒ message එක ඔයාගේ brain එකට ගියේ නැත්නම් ඔයා ඒක අල්ලගෙන ඉන්නවා අත පිච්චෙනකම් ඔයා අල්ලන් ඉන්නවා right yeah extreme pain causes death extreme pain as in like especially shock so මට කියනකොට like very recently I read this article about like ඉස්සර ඔය black white war එක දැන් නම් ඇත්තටම like පොඩි you know there's this colorism problems but back in the days there were like wars and like big problems between blacks and whites right so ඒ කාලේ like there was a black and white separate වෙන board එකක් තිබිලා I think this was US වලද කොහෙද US තමයි yeah
Yeah,
so
US versus Africa.
Yeah US වල තමයි මේ කේස් එක වෙලා තිබ්බේ yeah yes correct but so this particular case which I read very recently was there was a black town and like black කට්ටිය ජීවත් වෙච්ච town එකක් තිබිලා තියෙනවා and then on the other side there was like a city or another town where white people lived so then there was a border so කොමාරි එක දවසක් ඒ border එකේ there was a young girl who was murdered there so then එක දැක්ක ගාම people started because there was a boy whose house is near that border or yeah border එකේ ඇවිදලා හරි මොකක් කරලා people started suspecting him and this boy was black murder කළා තිබ්බේ white girl කෙනෙක්නේ so එතකොට ඔක්කොම white කට්ටිය නෑ මෙයා තමයි මැරුවේ කියලා කෙලිමේ black boy ට accuse කරලා and ඒ කාලේ punishments were very severe and apparently this boy was electrocuted ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ කාලේ electrocuting chair එකක් තියෙනවා වැල අත් ඔක්කොම ගැට ගහලා ඔළුවට දානවා අර high voltage එකක් එන helmet එක have you all seen this somewhere maybe
In movies.
yeah so it's like a helmet a helmet එකට මේ wires ගහලා තියෙන්නේ අත් ඔක්කොම බැඳලා
So it's like a shock treatment, right?
yeah it's a
Like,
shock it's an electric shock
to recall the memory and to ask the truth of
yeah මෙහෙමයි එතකොට depending on the voltage you are giving because our body is fully electric මොකද අපේ body එකේ nerves ඔක්කොම electric signals යන්නේ එතකොට පොඩි shock එකක් දුන්නොත් yes sometimes quickly like memories are recalled memories are lost ඒ වගේ දේවල් වෙනවා මොකද the brain is responding to electrical signals but this child was killed by a very high voltage so and that boy has not gotten justice then in a follow-up article එකක් තිබ්බා and later it has been revealed that he was not the murderer අර ඒ කාලේ because of this black white separation කියන්නේ හොයලා බලන්නවත් නැතුව මෙයා ළඟ හිටියේ නම් මෙයා තමයි මැරුවේ එහෙම කියලා just accuse කළා so it's a very sad story even I saw another story where like a very young black boy very young a small black boy was murdered by electrocuting and mama තව එකක් දැක්ක ඒ වගේ මේ ඔය මම I was going down a rabbit hole so I was reading some articles there was another one where like apparently white doctors back in the days when they wanted to like test medication they did it on black women එකපාරක එක ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් එයා මේ pain tolerant medication එකක් මොකක් හරි develop කරලා ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ something like a painkiller වගේ painkiller or some pain I can't exactly remember the context but ඒකේ බලන්න ඕනේ කොච්චර ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ බෙහෙත බිව්වට පස්සේ යාට කොච්චර pain tolerate කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා තමයි මේකෙන් බලන්නේ that's what the doctor was developing he was a white doctor and apparently එයා ඔක්කොම test කරලා තියෙන්නේ black pregnant mothers ලට So black pregnant mothers who are about to give birth, එයා ඒගොල්ලන්ට බෙහෙත දීලා ටෙස්ට් කරලා බලනවා. So initially most of the tests were failed. So so එතකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ට so they're going through a lot of pain and all that. So ඒ වගේ ඉතින් ගොඩක් sad ඒවා. It's just from history. But yeah, so brain signal like a how far it went. There's a film called Get Out. That's pretty scary and racist. Get Out. That rings a bell. මං කොහේ TikTok එකේ වගේ දැකලා ඇති. But yeah, there are some really මං සාමාන්‍ය movies very බලන්නේ because it really brings me down. Just ruins my mood because it's a little sad. It transplant brain of black people to white people. Really? Okay. So that's scary, yes. So anyways, coordination. Ituru tikka we will discuss the next day. We are going to finish the lesson next week. I read about a medicine called speed made by Hitler, which increases the adrenaline of soldiers who made that fight non-stop like them. Really?
He should, like, there is a movie related to this one.
Which one?
Now about the medicine speed.
Oh.
Like even a 90 years old person, if they consume that medicine, they can go and fight with someone and kill in the war
Oh.
field.
I
It's
have
so
heard
powerful.
I've heard of this medicine developed and used back in World War period, but okay, interesting. I will definitely
No,
read about it.
recently in history we studied about these World War and stuff about Hitler. Then only our history teacher told, like, those medicines called speed and all only developed, and now they are using it as drugs and stuff.
Oh, right. So it ended after
Yeah,
they killed each other.
there is a movie about this medicine called speed also.
Mm-hmm. It's meth, like meth. Oh. So Ashwita and Tinura, you guys know a lot about this. It's very interesting. Thank you for sharing it with all of us. So
No, like once he told only I remembered about that movie, so that's what I shared.
yes. Ayu and Mayum they has heard. They become heroes for 5 minutes. So it's like a sudden what do you call it? Like an outburst again? Like a quick peak of energy again, eh?
Yes, after that, certain, like after those 5 minutes of time, they go back to their normal state.
That's quite like
So
drugs.
for every 5 minutes, they have to consume that medicine if they have to fight with someone.
Oh yes. That's very interesting. I'm actually very happy you guys are aware of these things. That means that you guys are not like absorbed into your phones and just curious about the world. So that's very interesting. See, this is more like a knowledge sharing session. You guys are also teaching me things, letting me know things that I will go and later read. That's interesting. So, it's better to share. Oh, interesting. So I think that's something to like maybe awaken your curiosity for others also. If you have some time, you can read about it. If I find anything, I will make sure to share with you all. Ogalang WhatsApp group I actually inactive lamai. I'm pretty sure you guys are very active on WhatsApp. You're just not active in the group. I prefer if you guys are a little more active. When I even asked you all to share like your school papers, term test papers, and all that. None of you all shared. एक group पे के share we could just have a discussion there, right? So I wish the group was more active. Even last batch I was saying that अंतिम hari wage तमे group पे टिक active होने. And even if you have a question, I would prefer if you just straight away put it in the group. And like even අපි සතියට එකපාරනේ හම්බ වෙන්නේ, but අනිත් වෙලාවලට we can just stay up to date and just have that communication. And ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ group එකේ දුකේද මම best students of the year, students of the month දාලා, like none of you even have reacted to that. I was like, Miss Divya told me and I also checked. I was like, මේගොල්ලන්ට මේක ගානක් නැද්ද? And also like when others have received student of the year, you guys should like at least put a heart or something, because I know you guys are very active on WhatsApp. Social media is your tool. You guys use it a lot. I know that. So yeah, a little bit of activity would be good if you can. Yeah. So yeah, just something that I wanted to share. Yeah, that is so much like drugs, Tinura. That's so much like drugs. That makes so much sense. Drugs walat gomat ehema නෙවෙන්නේ. I will definitely read about it, and if I find anything, I will definitely share with you guys. Same with you. ඔයගොල්ලන් හම්බෙන interesting දේවල් share කරගන්න. Because then we all can learn together. Okay. Nervous system and I mean, if you take this coordination part, there's nothing very complicating, but some content තියෙනවා මේකේ. We will be finishing this next week, and whatever the remaining time we have, we will be doing heat. So I will ask Miss Divya to share the actual lamai heat note එක LMS එකට දාන්න. Miss Divya will send you guys a video of how you can go to LMS and download it. Right? එතකොට LMS එකෙන් download කරගන්න. ඒතර ඔක්කොම notes මම ඒකට දාන්නම්. ඒතර ඔයාලට ඕන කලින් උනා download කරගන්න පුළුවන් notes. So don't give your LMS access to others. It's something that each of you have separately. එතකොට ඉස්කෝලේ යාළුවන්ටයි එහෙම හැමෝටම share කරන්න යන්න එපා. It's just something that you have. I will upload all the resources I have to the LMS gradually. එතකොට ඒකෙන් කෙලින්ම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඉස්සරහට whiteboard notes උත් කෙලින්ම LMS එකට දාන්න තමයි මම හිතුවේ. මොකද හැම week එකේ මේක manually share කරන එක පොඩ්ඩක් miss වෙන්න පුළුවන්. You know, it could be a little troublesome. But if it's on the LMS straight away, you can just go and download whatever you want, right? So that is the goal for LMS. That whiteboard notes comes to my email. Which whiteboard note? Really? How? How does that come to your email? Okay. I'll check that. But if you're receiving it, all good. කොහොමද මම LMS එකට දාන්න? සමහරට මේ ඔයාගේ Gmail එක හරි මොකද email එක Zoom එකේ ඇති or something like that. But anyways, yeah. So the make LMS a resource center. AI එකත් LMS එකේ already integrate කරලා හරි integrate කරනවා හරි. So AI එක you can directly access from the LMS also. I want to make the LMS a resource hub for you where you can get everything you want at one place. That's the goal for the LMS. ඒකයි මම පොඩ ඒක ඔයගොල්ලන් use කරන එක වැඩි කරන්න හදන්නේ. And July වලින් පස්සේ ඔයගොල්ලන් meeting link එක WhatsApp එකේ එන්නේ නැහැ. LMS එකට log වෙලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? So I want you to use the LMS more, because that's where you will find a lot of your resources, right? Okay, let's wrap up, Lamai. Let's see each other next week, which is a new month. 4th of July, right? And anything else? Poson poe dawase ma ogalanta dan hitiya, but I think I put a maths class, grade 11 maths class. So I won't be able to do a science class on the same day, but definitely api ඊළඟ මාසේ poe dawasa ගමු. Yeah, that's all. So then let's wrap up, Lamai. Let's see each other next week. Until then, have a great week. Please do send the homework. And good night. Okay.